Are you looking to grow your dental practice and attract top-tier new patients? Discover the potential of digital marketing with a personalized strategy session. Join Lila Stone, the marketing director at Equa, for an exclusive 90-minute consultation. Lila and her team will dedicate 6 hours before your meeting to create a customized marketing plan specifically for your practice. This valuable opportunity is free of charge and comes with no commitments. Visit www.insuranceuntangledorg/MSM to schedule your meeting with Lila today. You'll also receive a free analysis report so you can start transforming your practice through the power of digital marketing.
You are now listening to another episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast, where we explore the various challenges faced by dental practices due to their reliance on insurance. Join us in this podcast as we dive deep into the issues surrounding dental insurance dependence and offer practical solutions and strategies to help you take control of your practice's financial future.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. My name is Ben Tuinei, and I'm one of the co-hosts of this podcast that's really very much dedicated towards helping practices that are tangled up with insurance. Today, I have my good friend Naren with me. I'm going to be interviewing him on a very important topic. Naren, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ben. And I heard you guys had some tornado trouble, so I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, so the Midwest, so the plains from Kansas, Missouri, all the way down to the south. We've had a number of tornadoes, really bad weather. So we just had a tornado rip through our town over the weekend. And so our internet and power is out. So if you're looking at me on video, I'm sitting outside on my porch, enjoying connection through my cell phone. But it's cold and a little bit lonely with all the power out and the outages that are going up. But everybody's doing fine.
That's good to hear. So hopefully the worst is behind you, and hopefully, things are back to normal soon.
Yeah. Today we're back at work, and we're going to be moving forward with this great cause of providing education. So Naren, thank you for being with us today. We selected a topic to talk about that is building a practice that can withstand any challenge. And I'm probably a good example of how to build for emergencies, right? In my last home, we had 2 backup internets, 1 satellite and then 1 hardwired. And that was designed to withstand the crazy snowstorms that knock out the wired internet, so you could at least have satellite internet. But I think about that as it pertains to building a practice that can withstand a challenge. And Naren, the first question for you regarding this topic is, what is the difference between a practice that is a proactive, developing innovations and change versus a reactive practice, right? That's reacting to conditions and constantly putting out fires, But what do you think is the difference between those two practices, types of practices?
Yeah, I think the ones who are reactive, I think, and I see many of this because in my experience, there are those practices that continue to grow every year and continue to have their best year every year. Of course, every few years, they might have a little bit of a hiccup, but most of the time they're just cruising. And they just keep doing the important things day in and day out. They're not necessarily, reacting to what's happening around them. Like, perhaps an employee quit, or perhaps, like a tornado happened, right? So they don't let whatever is happening around them, change their course, change their destination, change where they're going. Yes, they might have a day or two of, things not going perfectly. And even today, even with the tornado, you're recording this podcast. So you find a way, you find a solution, right? So I think that's kind of like the major difference I noticed in terms of, like, I've been doing this for 18 years now. And the ones who do really, really well and the ones who struggle, they usually just keep marching forward. And actually, when things are tough, they double down, because that's a good time to, focus on improving your business, right? When you have free time, instead of complaining about it and feeling bad about it and getting everybody else stressed out, you do the things you can to make your business better. So I think that long-term thinking and that focusing on the key important things day in and day out is what makes the successful practices thrive.
Yeah, I spoke with my taxi driver on the way to the airport yesterday on Sunday morning, and he's from Africa. The interesting thing is that he grew up in an environment similar to me, a hunter-gatherer society, right? Where it's a whole concept of fish harvesting. And I think about the farmers here in the United States and how successful they are. And why are they successful? Is because here in the United States, farmers only have so many months throughout the year to produce and grow crops that earn their income for the whole year. But what do they do in the wintertime or the recessions, right? They innovate and they look at technology to become better, you know? And I like what you just said there about having, I use downtime as an opportunity to innovate, you know, and buckle down, you know, to help sustain the business and all that. But, you know, about practices, Naren, sustainable practice, are there more things than just finance you want to look at when you define a sustainable practice?
Yeah, absolutely. There are three things that I would definitely work on all the time. One is leadership. Do you have the right team? Are they driving the bus along with you versus you driving all the key metrics and all the key goals? Because at some point it'll get tiring if you are the one responsible for everything, right? So you need a team where you can distribute, ownership, distribute responsibility. Do you have systems? So you know exactly how to do a particular task or particular function, and then you can follow it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel or change what you're doing every 3 weeks or every 3 months or when there's a new person. You can just follow those systems. Do you have systems that are working, that are consistently being followed? And finally, in today's day and age, if you are not, DSO, you have to be relationship driven, right? Because the advantage you have versus a DSO is the patient is not a number in the eyes of the practice. So the people appreciate that, right? Nobody wants to go to a healthcare provider where they feel like they're just a number and they don't really know you, care about you. So how do you do that? You build relationships. You get to know your patients. They feel like, every time they come into you, they're seeing a friend, coming to see a friend. You ask about, how their day was or how their trip was, so you make notes on what's happening in their life and you inquire about it, right? The more you get interested in people, they get interested in you. They start appreciating you. And that really can make you stand out, especially in a market where you don't want to be losing patients. You want to keep patients for a long time. You want them to refer their friends. You want them to write Google reviews. You want them to become your advocates. So building those relationships and making people feel important, I think are all critical part of building a sustainable practice.
Yeah, that's excellent from a great perspective in terms of customer service. That's how we keep patients long term, get them to be loyal. What about marketing strategies? Does that help somewhat to kind of keep a practice in the thriving mode?
Are you talking about marketing strategies?
Oh yeah. So how? I guess my question is how does the marketing strategy play into or as a key element, or if it is a key element to a thriving and sustainable practice? How does marketing strategies tie into thriving practices?
Yeah, I mean, just like every other part of your business, nobody owes you anything, right? You have to go earn it. Same thing with patients. They don't owe to come, they don't owe a visit to your office. So if you're trying to attract new patients, the first thing I would work on is Google reviews. Do you have great Google reviews where people feel like they're going to a good practice? Are you, showing up when they're doing research? When they're doing research, if they can't find you, then you can't blame them for not, choosing you. And then, what are you doing to get them to like you? Do you have cases, the kind of work you have done? Are you using videos to get people to kind of get to know you a little bit before they even pick up the phone? So what are you doing to get people to know you, like you, and trust you? Knowing you in terms of, showing up on Google searches or, even ads, liking you in terms of videos, and then trusting you in terms of Google reviews and or cases. So these are, again, things you can work on proactively. See, the fundamentals of business doesn't change. We talked about relationships, systems, leadership, and now within marketing, we talked about 3 fundamentals that you need to work on day in and day out. If you're working on the fundamentals, regardless of what challenge, whether it's a tornado or whether it's a hurricane or maybe a slowing of the economy, you still can keep marching forward. Remember, you don't have to be better than everybody in the world. You just have to be in the top 10 or 20% compared to your competition in your area. So if you are the one, who is systematic, who's working on these things day in and day out, and they are like the 80% who is not, they just, some days they do a decent job. When they get distracted, they don't. Then you really have an advantage. You really can continue to grow every year. You really can make your practice thrive. And when you have a practice that's thriving, you attract good quality people too, which makes it even better. So it's almost like a cycle. Either it's a virtuous positive cycle or a virtuous negative cycle. So by working on the fundamentals day in and day out, you create and feed this positive cycle. And then later on, I know doctors who have a $5 million practice, and they're working 2 to 3 days a week because they have this team that's driving the bus. They have this team that knows what to do and loves doing it. Of course, you reward them too in the form of bonuses and so forth. But it can continue to grow and grow. And the idea that growth meaning you have to work harder and give up your work-life balance is nonsense. It means just knowing what to focus on and then being able to focus on those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I always think about the concept of marketing as it pertains to a thriving business. And one thing rings true, especially in a down economy when people aren't as spendy as they used to be, right? But the big question is, are people out there spending? Are there people out there planning enough that would come and help my practice grow, even during slow times, right? Or a down economy, or even in a thriving economy? What would you say as far as recommended next steps for practices that are looking to sort of strengthen their practice's future?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a really good question. I think a good place to start is, take a look at yourself. Take a look at how well you are doing on the fundamentals, right? If you don't know what the fundamentals are, and if you're not doing a good job on executing on them day in and day out, week in and week out, you need to. So we touched on systems. We touched on, leadership. We touched on, the things you can do inside marketing. I'm not an expert in the business side of dentistry as much as I'm an expert in the marketing side of dentistry. So I'll stick to, what I know best. So I would say at the very least, just do an audit, see how you are doing. For example, if like we talked about helping people find you, right? Are you ranking or showing up for 100 or more different keyword searches on Google? We know Google controls more than 90% of the search market. So if people type in dentist near me or, Invisalign, zip code or Invisalign city name, assuming you are interested in growing your Invisalign part of the business, then are you showing up? Are you on page 1? Are you in the top 10 results? How many such keywords are you showing up for? How many phone calls are you getting from the different marketing you're doing on a monthly basis? Is that number growing? How many Google reviews do you have? How many are you getting every month? Is that number growing? So just start looking at some of the numbers that tells you a story as to how well you are doing. Look at your landing pages. Do they have compelling videos, compelling cases? So when I go to your Invisalign page, I'm like, wow, I really want to go see Dr. Smith because, he has so many examples of people's lives they have changed with Invisalign. And I want to, benefit from his expertise. Versus I go there and I don't really see any kind of information or any kind of cases other than just words and text and, written prose. So how are you really doing on these things? So that's where I would start. I would start by doing an audit, and I would start by figuring out where things are. And one of the things we do is we do what we call a marketing strategy meeting. I'm sure those of you who listen to the podcast regularly, you may have heard of it. If you haven't booked a strategy meeting yet, definitely book one. It's insuranceuntangled.com/MSM, insuranceuntangled.com/MSM. And we can do it together. We can help you understand how you stand on marketing, get a report card and also a plan. Like regardless of what the report card is, you want to be one of those, top practices when it comes to marketing, where you're dominating marketing. Because, if you have these, I like to call them machines working. So the marketing machine, the leadership machine, the systems machine, if these machines are working and working well, then every year is going to be your best year yet. Every year is going to be easier than the prior year. When they're not working well, it's going to be like struggling, and I don't think you're going to have fun. Neither is your team. So it's going to be not a great place to be. So continue to look into like, what are you doing to improve your practice and marketing, and so that's where I would start.
That's excellent. I couldn't agree more, Naren. I think new blood into the practice, new business in general. It replaces so many different things, such as diminishing production opportunities. Because we're treating patients and getting them healthier. And interestingly, I've been working with a CPA by the name of his first name is Brandon, and he really opened up my eyes to the fact that a practice that doesn't accept new patients for 4 years consistently, or has major new patient declines for 4 years, after the 4th year, the production opportunities are almost non-existent because we don't have any new patients and new opportunities to sort of grow those areas of the practice that kind of feed into the sustainability of practices from a long-term perspective. So your thoughts on this have been amazing. For our listeners, check out that link in the show notes, insuranceuNtangled.com/MSM to take care of that or to request that marketing strategy meeting. Naren, any final thoughts as we wrap up today?
No, I really enjoyed our conversation today. And I really wish you the best with the tornado and everything else you're dealing with. And I do commend you on your discipline, right? Regardless of what happens, you just keep marching forward. So keep doing that. And I know you make a big difference as well, Ben, with all the clients you work with and all the work you do. So I'm really looking forward to, working with practice owners, helping them improve their marketing, helping them dominate Google, and of course, understand what's important for them to zoom in on, and then of course, helping them achieve those goals.
Absolutely. Well, you're always a wealth of knowledge, and it's fun learning from you, Naren. We really appreciate your time and your expertise. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today on another amazing episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. Like this episode, give us a review, 5 stars, hopefully. And then also don't forget to check out insuranceuNtangled.com for future webinars and perks that we'll be giving out and all that fun stuff. Thank you again for joining us today. Until we meet again, we wish all of you the very best of success. Take care.